Hey again, guys. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the DBT skill of radical acceptance. Now, this skill gets a lot of hangups sometimes because it's basically the skill of understanding that everything is how it's supposed to be. And I'm going to get into a little bit more about what that means in just a minute. So let's start with reality acceptance. So, in any given situation, there are five possible responsibles for painful problems. The first one is to solve the problem. The second one is to change how you feel about the problem. The third one is to accept it as is. The fourth one is to stay miserable. Or the fifth one is to make it worse. You really only have those five options. So let me go back to where we were talking about everything is as it should be. So imagine that you are in the kitchen and you are making this recipe of chicken and you are, I don't know, throwing some lemon pepper in and you're throwing some sage in, I don't know. Maybe even you throw one of those cream of mushroom soups on top. I don't know. But then you take out your chicken and ick, oh my gosh, it's yucky. Well, this chicken is exactly as it should be, given the ingredients that went into it. So, in other words, the way that behaviors present situations in life, all the way the world is exactly as it should be, given all of the ingredients that created it. And by accepting that things are as they should be, then we get back to those five ways of dealing with problems, right? So if we're thinking about how do we adjust the chicken, right? Well, we got to adjust the recipe. That's how we would solve the problem. If this is gross, then we would want to change the recipe and try again. Same thing with behavior and same thing with circumstances. If we don't like the way something's going, then we got to change the way that we're responding to it, change the things that we're doing. That way, when it comes out, it may not be as yuck. The second thing we could do, right, is change how we feel about the chicken, right? So maybe it tasted gross, but it's starting to grow on us, right? It's an acquired taste. So maybe we change the way we feel about the chicken. Same thing we can do in painful situations. We can change the way that we feel about situations. So let's say, for example, you have a difficult time with a teacher at school, or you have a difficult time with a boss, and it's really, really distressing to you, you can change how you feel about it by thinking, oh gosh, look at this wonderful opportunity to use my DBT skills, right? Right. So you can change how you feel about it. You can accept it as is. Okay, so I got this chicken. It's not great, but it is what it is. And you just accept as it is. Same thing with behavior. I've got this difficult teacher. I got this difficult boss. It just is what it is. You can stay miserable and just like keep recycling it over and over again. And think about how the chicken was terrible. I'm a terrible cook. This is the worst thing that's ever occurred. Same thing with behavior. You can stay miserable, like, oh my gosh, this teacher just hates me. It's the worst thing that's ever happened. I'm a terrible student. They're a terrible teacher. Oh gosh, or boss, same thing. Or you can make it worse. Maybe you decide for your chicken, you're going to throw a mountain of salt on it to try and help it. Or maybe you're going to do things at school or at work that would make the situation with your boss or teacher worse. So radical acceptance is the skill of accepting the things that you cannot change. It helps you cope with your emotions and move on rather than just sitting in it with bitterness and suffering. It really is the complete and total acceptance in your mind, heart, and body. Life is what it's supposed to be. The chicken is what it's supposed to be. The energy that people use fighting their reality could be used for coping with reality rather than like fighting with themselves internally about it so that they can move forward. So what we know is that life can be worth living even when painful events occur. And sometimes those painful events can be pretty big, right? So we have these things that happen. It happened, it's what has happened, but we can still move forward by accepting that that reality occurred. So sometimes accepting reality is more of a task than just the simple thought of acceptance. So for that, we use the skill of turning the mind. Turning the mind means making the choice to accept a situation over and over again sometimes. You know, acceptance is a process. It's not a one-time decision. And we have to repeatedly turn our minds to go down the road of acceptance whenever we find ourselves not accepting our reality. You know, beliefs and emotions can interfere with the acceptance of reality. So let me give you an example. Like a belief, you know, sometimes people will think if I accept this painful situation, I'm weak, or I just gave up, or I'm approving of the reality, or I'm accepting this life of pain. And that's not necessarily the case, right? If you accept the reality, then you're not necessarily approving of the reality. You're just saying that it is, and it happened the way it happened, given everything that else that went into it. And then sometimes people have big emotions, right? They may have intense anger towards the person who caused the painful event. Sometimes there's like this unbearable sadness when there's loss. Some people experience a lot of guilt over their behavior or shame over something about themselves. And then sometimes there's rage about the injustice of the world. And trust me, all of those emotions are valid. You know, the reason for turning the mind and the reason for acceptance is that acceptance turns pain so that you can cope and you can deal with it, because pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So how long you allow something to continue to affect you is really based on whether you're able to accept it. By accepting reality, you can express your feelings in a moderated way, get social support, professional help, or progress instead of being stuck spinning your wheels in the same space. So there's actually a process to the turning the mind skill. So the first thing that you must do is you have to observe that you are not accepting reality. So the way that you do this is you're looking for anger or bitterness, annoyance, whether you're avoiding emotions or asking questions like why me or why is this happening, or things like I can't stand this and it shouldn't be this way. Those are kind of the ideas and thoughts that you're looking for that are a key indicator that maybe you're not fully accepting reality. Step 2 is that you go within the self and make an inner commitment to accept reality exactly as it is. Step 3 is you do it again, over and over again, to keep turning their mind to acceptance. Each time you come to a fork in a road where you cannot accept reality or you find yourself rejecting it. And then step 4 is to develop a plan for catching yourself in the future when drifting out of acceptance. Another fun example. So I call it like acceptance drift, right? So I don't know if you guys have ever been to the beach before, but I grew up in Myrtle Beach. And so I used to go down to the beach all the time. So I would go into the ocean, and y'all know how like the current sometimes like takes you down the beach. I don't know if y'all know that or not, but sometimes you can get swept up. And so when I was little, there were many times like I would be way down the beach and didn't even realize that I had gotten away from my mom and the towels that we had laid out. And there was one time I got really, really far away. And so my mom got really, really scared and upset. So the next time we went to the beach, she's like, you know what, Emily, stay between the blue house and the pink house. If you see yourself going past the blue house, you need to get out and come back. Turning the mind and non-acceptance drift is a lot like that, right? So if you know where your blue house and your pink house is in terms of what you're accepting, so like if you know that why me shows up when you stop accepting reality, or you know that it's not fair shows up in your mind when you're not accepting reality, you know you're at your blue house, right? Or if you are ruminating on how it was somebody else's fault and what they should do differently, that might be your pink house, but everybody's different. So you got to figure out where your blue house and your pink house is so that you can continue to work to catch yourself and then move back forward by using that turning the mind skill. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.